And we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is your host, Abraham L. Jaguar. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Seven Sagas and their tabletop RPG, Ars Mechanica. This features the 30 Years' War, waged by Titanic walking engines. It even comes with solo rules. You will find it in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly sponsored by Detri Studios, the publishers and developers of Dames of Asstoria, a tabletop role-playing game where you play as monster girls experiencing high adventure in a world that doesn't fully accept them. They have recently released Daughters of Lamb. This is a pay-what-you-want tabletop RPG where you get to play as cybernetic nuns with guns looking for the missing pieces of their AI god. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly sponsored by the Red Room Publishing. Please check out their store for exclusive tabletop RPG products and check out their recent release, Final Frontier. This is a streamlined sci-fi tabletop RPG where you get to explore space for justice, for profit, for both. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment as well. A moment, please, while I maximize. I'll be showing you some very interesting images concerning this feature presentation. So, what is this all about? Today, I am talking about the song of Saya no Uta. You will see here in the chat window. Um, I recommend that you start playing this track of the visual novel, put it on a loop, low volume, to establish the ambience. I would love to use this music with this directly with the live stream, but you know that YouTube gets pretty copyright strike friendly, right? Trigger happy. So that will get the stream into a bit of trouble. So I recommend that you listen to it. The link is in the chat window. So and now let me show you this image. We are taking a look at. Let me minimize myself. Mm, Here it goes. Before that, I also wanted to listen to the ambience. Hold on while I. Okay, if everything is set up correctly, you shouldn't be listening to this. Let me check. Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Okay. Song of Saya no Uta. I really like this image because this image encapsulates a lot concerning this visual novel. This visual novel is one of the greatest visual novels of all time, but it is also one of the most disgusting ones in various ways. Very controversial as well, but it is brilliant nonetheless. It is brilliant. I'm pretty sure there are the science fiction YouTube totalitarian countries in science fiction YouTube that consider this visual novel to be dangerous, unsafe. With the current madness of current times, the online safety act, and who knows what. It's all science fiction. The crazy uh, Visa and Mastercard situation. Science fiction YouTube. This visual novel is like the things that they usually use as leverage to attack gamers and people in general. When you first start to play this visual novel, and I warn you, this video is going to contain spoilers. This video contains many, many spoilers. So keep that in mind. The moment you start the visual novel, You are presented with this. You are seeing things and listening to things, of course, as if you are the protagonist. You are sitting at a cafeteria, but the cafeteria is not usual, it's not normal, it's not conventional. The cafeteria looks covered in blood, gore, viscera, guts, melanoma, flesh. Like it is the most disgusting cafeteria you can imagine. Everything is made out of organic, rotting, smelly matter. And you start to talk with this thing. This thing talks to you, you talk to it, but the voice that this thing produces, it is like, like it's sort of like distorted, gurgling, buzzing, droning sound. And you have no idea what is going on. But this thing is talking to you about many normal things, about how was your day, are you bored, or like talking about college assignments. No, yeah, like the university stuff. Oh, this project, this or that, and the thing talks about perhaps taking a trip to relax, to enjoy yourselves, go and travel somewhere. There are several of these things talking to you in the cafeteria. Their breath, their voices, they slam into your face. It is a horrible stench of viscera, gore, feces, urine, things that are rotting away. Like imagine the worst smell possible. And sometimes the protagonist feels as if he is getting sprayed with the saliva of these things, the drool. So it is an intolerable situation. Here is the protagonist. It was not always like that. This is Fuminori. Fuminori. So Fuminori, it was not always like this for him. It was only after he suffered an accident. He was going on a normal trip with his parents. They were going wherever, visiting the countryside, who knows. But during their trip, there was an accident. A huge vehicle, a truck, crashed into them. The parents died, and Fuminori was wounded, severely wounded. He was in danger of dying. So he had to be rushed to the hospital. They managed to save his life, but his parents did not survive. And after that, it was after that accident when Fuminori started to see the world around him as a very monstrous, hellish world where everything is made out of guts, melanoma, veins, like all sorts of disgusting things, like tumorous type of appearance. Very, very strange world. Bizarre, hellish, nightmarish. But it turns out that these things that were talking to him, these monsters, because he's constantly, you can see his thoughts in the visual novel that he feels so disgusted, he is repelled, feels such a disgust, such an aversion towards these creatures. But these creatures, apparently, apparently, they are his friends. You have Yo, who is actually, or rather was actually, the love interest of Fuminori. Yo and Fuminori, they had feelings for each other before the accident. In fact, before going on his little trip with his parents, Fuminori was going to tell Yo that he was pretty much hinting of confessing his feelings towards her, and she loves him as well. But ever since the accident, Fuminori Whenever he looks at Joe, he sees this. This is what her shape, what Fuminori perceives Joe to be after the accident. So things are not looking too bright between them, right? And the other individuals at the table that also have this gross appearance, they are also his friends. His best friend, Koji, on the left, and his girlfriend, Omi, on the right. They are his friends. They want him to feel safe and welcome after his accident. He barely survived the accident, so they are telling him, "Are you feeling all right? We should take a trip, just the four of us, to enjoy things, relax, take our minds away of the university, of our projects, our assignments." They seem to be the nicest people, but Fuminori, he cannot he cannot perceive them as anything else but this monster, these sorts of creatures. He cannot wait to leave the cafeteria. He wants to get out of there. Like he cannot tolerate them. He is like, these creatures are so disgusting. Fuminori steps uh, outside of college and goes back to his apartment, to his house, rather, to his house. But first, he needs to visit Dr. Ryoko. Ryoko is apparently the psychiatrist in charge of Fuminori, of keeping track of his progress. Fuminori, apart from the initial outburst. Welcome, Josh. Have you just arrived, or do you want me to do a little recap? Because I have started streaming in about like 5 minutes or so. Well, talking about the story. Let me know, Josh, if you need a bit of a recap, because this is going to get good. It's going to get really, really good. But yes, this Dr. Ryoko, she is the one assigned to keep track of Fuminori's progress after the accident, his mental and physical state. But Fuminori, after waking up from the accident, he had like this panic attack. He was looking at everything as if it were monstrous. I just popped in. Okay, okay, okay. So the visual novel is Song of Saya. It is a horror visual novel, very controversial. It's an old novel from Japan. It is highly, highly controversial due to the subject matter, the drama, the horror situations that unfold. But it is also very controversial because we will get to that. Suffice to say, for the moment, some of the material here would surely be illegal in certain science fiction YouTube totalitarian countries. So when you start to play this visual novel, the main character Fuminori is looking at everything around him, the world, the people he interacts with, the animals, as if it was this as monsters. Imagine that. Imagine you look at the world and the walls, the ceiling, the chairs, your computer, the whatever, the streets, everything looks fleshy and gory and tumorous and melanoma covered with eyes and fangs and spikes. Fuminori cannot stop looking at the world as if it is monstrous, fleshy, disgusting. He finds himself in the cafeteria talking to what you would expect to be his friends, but his friends look like these things, and their breath, like it stinks of feces. They are drooling, and but this Fuminori, by the way, this is the main character, suffered an accident. After he suffered an accident, he went on a trip with his parents, and in the highway, this truck crashed into them. The parents died, but and Fuminori was in danger of dying, but he was rushed to the hospital. He was operated on. But after the operation, after the procedure, after the surgery, that's when he started to look at the world as if it was everything monstrous, gory, disgusting, alien looking. But these are his friends. Yo, his love interest. He was going to confess to her before the accident. his best friend, Koji, and his girlfriend, Omi. Look at them. They are very nice people, friendly. They worry so much about him. They are like, Fuminori, are you okay after the accident? Let's take a school trip so that you can relax. A school trip, like a university. Let's put away the university for a moment and let's go on a trip. Let's travel somewhere relaxing. They want the best for him. And Joe wants to be Fuminori's girlfriend. But Fuminori, he cannot look at them other than this. For him, they are these monstrous beings. He constantly thinks you can read his inner monologue. He wants to get out of the university as soon as possible because he cannot tolerate these people, these monsters. He is sure that they are monsters. So Fuminori, like I said, he just steps away from the cafeteria, gives a sorry excuse about doing this or that, and goes back to his apartment after checking up with the psychiatrist that is keeping track of his progress. And now here's the very interesting thing. Look, this is the world how Fuminori sees it. The world through the eyes of Fuminori. The sky completely black, everything black. The how you call it? Street lights, the pavement, the sidewalk, the buildings, everything covered in disgusting viscera, guts, melanoma, veins. It all looks so horrible. And he's looking at this and smelling this 24/7. He cannot stop this. This is not like, oh, sometimes he looks at the world and it's normal. Sometimes it looks monstrous. No. Imagine 24/7 perceiving the world like this. And the smell, it's horrible, disgusting. But there is a light in the life of Fuminori. And here comes the controversial. Let's talk about this controversial aspect. Well, before that, this is Fuminori in the when he goes to sleep. This is the hospital bedroom. But when Fuminori goes to sleep, this is the shit, the blankets, the shit, whatever, the covers, whatever you put on your body. Fuminori looks at it like this fleshy thing. And the pillow, look at it. His entire room looks like this. The ceiling, everything. Very claustrophobic, right? But like I said, there is a light in the life of Fuminori. And who is this light? Saya. A moment, please. I'm going to recommend a track that you should play in the background at the lowest volume. I'll place it in the chat window. We're going to listen to Song of Saya. Oh, there we go. Song of Saya. This is the main theme, variation one. Let me place it in the chat window. There we go. Play that on a loop in low volume to enhance the atmosphere. The Song of Saya. Let's talk about Saya. Who is Saya? Let's address the controversy of this visual novel. As you can see, Saya is a very apparently, right? A very young teenage girl, not older than 15 or 14. 15 max, I would say. That would be max. And this visual novel has some very explicit scenes that involve Saya. So, like I said, in some places this is probably an illegal game in some countries. Remember that in Japan, the age of consent is considerably lower in some cities when compared to the Western world. And I actually think that this is, how you say, a negative thing of the visual novel in the sense that there are a lot of people that are not going to feel the conflict, the clash, because you don't feel attracted to Saya. Like in my case, I like the waifus, like very voluptuous, mature, like. But Saya, she doesn't do it for me. This is not my sort of thing, right? And just to like do a sanity check, because in current times there is so much madness. This is still a fictional novel, a fictional visual novel. If there are people that for whatever reason get excited about this particular situation, it's still fiction. As long as they don't do something against someone in real life, they can do whatever they like in fiction. It is not real. This is not real. The fictional characters are not alive. They have no rights. Okay, they do not exist. I can't believe I actually have to say this because current times, current madness, right? So Saya is the only being, the only human that Fuminori can perceive as a normal looking human. When Fuminori woke up from his accident in the hospital, the doctors, the room, the staff, everything, it was monstrous. But during a particular night, he encountered Saya looking at him. And they started to talk, and Saya was like, "You're not afraid of me?" And Fuminori was like, "Are you kidding me? You're the most normal thing that I have ever seen since I woke up from this surgery." So they start to talk, and they start to get along pretty well in the hospital. Remember, this is the past. And Saya told Fuminori that she has been living alone in the hospital ever since her father died. Ever since her father died, she has been living in the hospital and obtaining food wherever she can, right? So here you started to put your detective mind to work. Saya says that she's eating things in the hospital. I think that at this point she also mentions that sometimes she also obtained food from the park. So perhaps a more naive individual could be thinking, well, maybe she has been stealing food from the hospital. You know how they serve the food for the patients, like yellow and chicken and whatnot, right? And the park, maybe there is like a fruit tree, and she has been eating fruit from the park. But the other implications are terrifying, right? What if Saya hasn't been eating what we consider normal food? What if she has been eating organs from the hospital, drinking blood, and in parks? Has she been eating food in parks, like fruits, or perhaps things that people that go on picnics leave unattended and she eats them? Or has she been eating animals, pets, cats, dogs, right? The implications. So Fuminori, the main character, Fuminori, he interacts with Saya, and because she is the only living being that he can see as with a normal appearance, for whatever fucking reason, he becomes infatuated with Saya, and Saya she becomes infatuated with him, despite so many red flags, right? And especially when he left the hospital, he he told Saya, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" And she was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, come and live with me. I live alone. My parents died, so I live alone." And she's not sure. Well, he's like, "Think about it, right?" He gets on the car because his friends are there. his friend Koji is there to drive him back to his house. Now Fuminori lives alone because his parents died. And when he gets to his house, Saya is waiting for him there. How did Saya get from the hospital to his home? You start to think, does Saya teleport, or could it be that Saya managed to sneak into the car? And if so, that's very weird, right? You would expect to see a teenage girl sneaking into your car quite easily. Things don't add up too much. Back to the present. Fuminori arrives after the university, and this is what is waiting for him. His living room, his bedroom, his kitchen, it all looks covered in viscera, fleshy, disgusting. So, with the help of Saya, they have been purchasing paints, lots and lots of paint, to paint over the furniture, the walls, the ceiling, everything, the floor, to try to make the living room a bit more tolerable. So it doesn't look like some sort of organic, fleshy landscape. His friends start to worry about him. In the case of Yo, let's look at Yo. She doesn't understand it. She had such a flirty, sometimes loving relationship with Fuminori. They were about to become a couple, but after the accident, he rejects her. And Omi and Koji, they also don't understand why Fuminori is distancing himself from them. And then the worst happens. Yo decides to confront Fuminori, tell Fuminori why is he acting like this. Wasn't wasn't there anything between them? Were they not about to become lovers? But Fuminori is he cannot stand it, and he assaults Yo with a bunch of insults, the most horrifying insults you could ever imagine. Telling her like, "You're a fucking sack of shit. You look like this and that. You smell so horrible. You're the most disgusting thing that I have ever seen." Because remember, Fuminori is looking at Joe like this. This is Joe. She looks like this through Fuminori's eyes. And the smell, she smells horrible. And her voice sounds monstrous, horrifying. Poor Yo, she runs away crying because the love of her life has devastated her like that. Fuminori leaves the university, and his friends, they notice that Yo is crying and something really bad happened between her and Fuminori, and Omi is angry. Koji's girlfriend, Omi, here on the right, she is so angry at Fuminori. How dare Fuminori attack Yo in such a way? She had nothing but good feelings towards him. So she tells Koji, you know what? I'm going to go to Fuminori's house and I'm going to let him have it. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. But here the horror starts to escalate. Fuminori is visiting Ryoko for his daily check. Well, I don't know if he goes daily or every few days. He goes for a checkup so that Dr. Ryoko checks on him, keeps track of his psychological and physical state. Fuminori, because he distrusts the world completely, because the world is so monstrous to him. After the accident, he's playing the part. He's like, "Oh yeah, doctor, I'm feeling perfectly fine. Everything looks great, and I'm trying to adapt to my life without my parents. Everything is going peaches and cream. Everything is going great, right?" But of course, that is not true. But while Fuminori is busy with Dr. Ryoko, Omi gets to Fuminori's house. She is horrified because she sees this. Imagine you enter someone's house and you see, but this is not exactly how you look at things. We see it in green color, right? But for a normal person, these colors are like brown and black and yellow, like the most disgusting color combination you can imagine. So Omi is terrified. What exactly is going on in Fuminori's house? The door was actually, I don't remember if it was open or if she used a spare key because his friends were looking at him, checking up on him to see if he was okay, or if she found a key under the doormat or whatever. She goes in, but waiting for her, still in the house, is Saya. And you know, by this moment, you know that Saya is not normal. Saya jumps over Omi, and that's the end of Omi. Omi has been destroyed. Omi is unalive because now you realize, by this moment, you realize that Saya is actually the thing that looks like this disgusting mass of veins and tissue and melanoma and tumors and whatnot. So Saya looks a bit more like this. Her real appearance is like a mass. And here, it is quite obvious that the author of the visual novel took inspiration on how you say from Shub Nigurat, the goat of 1,000 young from H.P. Lovecraft. You know, Shub Nigurat, because it is quite clear that Saya resembles a spawn of Shub Nigurat, like a mass of who knows tentacles and perhaps hoops and eyes and fangs and claws and tentacles, veins. So yes, poor Yo went to Fuminori's house and got unalived by Saya. Fuminori arrives to his house and he finds Saya crouching on top of a mass of strange colors. Fuminori looks at this mass of strange colors and he cannot believe it because up to this very moment, everything that Fuminori has been eating, drinking, it tastes like shit. It tastes horrible. He cannot eat without feeling the urge to throw up. So now he looks at Saya kneeling on top of this mass of multicolored things. And Fuminori is so hungry. He takes a smell, he takes a sniff, and he tells Saya, wow, what is it that you are eating that smells so delicious? And Saya tells him, do you want to eat this? Can you actually eat this? Like, can you humans eat this, right? And he's like, I want to eat this. It smells delicious. And Fuminori starts to eat, and he describes the flavor as some sort of fruity, delicious thing. And he cannot have enough. He gobbles down the thing with Saya. And Saya is like, wow, if I should have not, if I only knew about this, I could have obtained food for you. And Saya is like, from now on, I'm going to obtain more food, more of this stuff for you, Fuminori. And he's like, yes, please get it. I don't know where you got it, but please bring me more of these things. Fuminori continues with his everyday life, but Saya starts to think. She actually pieces together some research carried out by her father. She, if I remember correctly, she goes back to the hospital, goes through some documents, and the documents reveal that her father, her father, is actually Fuminori's doctor, the man who operated on Fuminori, saving his life from the accident, but she realizes that this doctor did something very questionable. He operated on Fuminori, did the surgery, employing certain occult and scientific procedures that modified Fuminori's mind forever. And Saya realized that Fuminori is looking at the world as he is currently looking at things, smelling things, hearing things, touching things, because this doctor did something on him. So Saya thought, well, it is very easy for me to do this to someone else. If I can approach someone else, could I actually modify that person so that person is also my friend and is not afraid of me? So now you know that the reason why Fuminori is going through all of this is because this doctor, that is somewhat of a mysterious figure up to this point, this doctor did something to his brain, and that's why he has been perceiving the world like this. Next to Fuminori, there is, of course, a neighbor. He's a guy with a wife, a daughter, and his wife and daughter go out of the house. He stays in the house, and he's Saya's target. Saya sneaks into the neighbor's house and jumps on the guy when he's unaware and starts to modify the guy. But Saya takes the procedure a bit further. She decides to modify everything about the man, everything. Not just the mind, but the body. So now you realize that Saya, she she's perhaps out of this world. She's not of our dimension, perhaps. And how is it possible that Saya, being such a young girl, how is it possible that she is able to understand the scientific and occult principles employed by her father? You need years to do these sorts of things. And Saya just learned it in an instant. And with her tiny body, she's able to modify people like that. So now the neighbor has been modified. The neighbor wakes up from his unconscious state and he starts to perceive the world exactly as Fuminori. Saya is nowhere to be seen because she went away while the process is complete. While the gestation takes uh, process, right? This man is horrified, as expected. He runs around the house. He's encased in this house that is now made out of fleshy, disgusting material. And when he tries to escape, he opens the door and finds two creatures. Two monsters have entered his house, a smaller monster and a larger monster. He takes a knife, if I remember correctly, either a knife or a blunt, heavy object, and he unalives the monsters, the small monster and the larger monster. And how those monsters screamed while he was killing them. If you have been paying attention, you now know that the monsters are actually his wife and his daughter, but because his mind has been modified, he thought they were monsters. So he ends up unaliving his own family. Then Saya arrives. Saya arrives and she's like, "Oh, my new friend. Let's play, friend." Now, here there is a bit of a thing that is not explained. It looks like fan interpretation. It appears that Saya, after doing this sort of modification, is left in a weakened state. Very weak. Because this man, now no longer a man, but actually a blob, like a melanoma tentacle thing, monster, assaults Saya, attacks Saya, tries to science fiction YouTube have his way with her. So Fuminori arrives and witnesses the horrifying event, but through the eyes of Fuminori, he sees this girl being approached, interacted with by this man, and he snaps. He doesn't care. He gets a knife, approaches them, and unalives the man. Saya is, I think that here she hopelessly falls in love with Fuminori. Now she considers Fuminori to be his absolute savior, and they realize that in this world, they are the only ones for each other. Everybody else is like a monster. And even if Saya transforms someone else, there is no guarantee that they are going to be friendly with them. Because that it gives you the impression that that was a potential plan for that Saya was thinking about, perhaps modify the entire world through that process so that the world fits their needs, their perspective. And as usual, Saya and Fuminori they get intimate with each other every single time. And Fuminori is even surprised that Saya seems to be very hungry. She is constantly telling Fuminori that she wants him to give her his present, right? Let's call it like that. She wants Fuminori's present, the Fuminori's gift. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? She wants him to give her his gift every single time they interact. No, this is YouTube. I have to word it like this. She wants Fuminori to give her many gifts, many white gifts. And Fuminori is thinking that that's very strange, right? But he even tells her, but that's going to get you into a certain state, right? And Saya is like, I don't care, Fuminori. I want your children. Science fiction YouTube. I want to have babies with you. And Fuminori was is like, oh well. Now back to Fuminori's friends. There's something very weird happening because on the part of Yo, she still wants closure. She doesn't understand why Fuminori attacked her like that. And in the case of Koji on the left, his girlfriend Omi, she suddenly disappeared. She went to Fuminori's house, hasn't returned. She's not answering his calls. Doesn't know exactly what is going on. So Fuminori has now gone completely bonkers. He looks at the world as if it is a world of monsters and realizes that Koji is going to threaten his relationship with Saya. So he sets up Koji. He tells Koji, oh, you know what? Your girlfriend, she did stop by, but she's acting very weird and she wants to meet up with us in this cabin in the middle of nowhere in the woods because Saya has told Fuminori about her father's wilderness retreat, a cabin in the middle of the forest. So Fuminori tricks Koji, gets him to come with him in a car. They get into the car. They go to the cabin. Once they arrive, Fuminori is like, "Oh, where is Omi? Let's look for her." And Koji, very naive, right? He should have suspected his friend of foul play. Koji gets very close to a well, and Fuminori takes the opportunity to push him down the well. Koji survives the fall, but is now trapped in a well in the middle of nowhere. If I remember correctly, I think there is no signal. Koji apparently is done for, bottom of the well. In the meantime, Yo, she has been trying to get into contact with Omi. She's also trying to talk to Fuminori, and nobody is answering the phone. She decides to visit Fuminori. She's still calling Joe, uh, Omi. I mean, Joe is calling Omi on the phone. No answer. She goes inside the house of Fuminori. Apparently, Saya. Ah, no, yes, Saya is there. Only Saya is there because Fuminori is busy pushing his best friend into the well. And Joe realizes that there is the sound of Omi's cell phone coming from the refrigerator, from the fridge. She opens the fridge and she finds many jars containing parts of Omi, and in one of those jars is the cell phone. Like Saya just took all of the remains and placed them into jars and put them inside the fridge without even bothering to take away the cell phone. Well, Jo realizes this, she gets attacked by Saya, and Saya once again mollifies her because she decides that uh, Fuminori needs a pet. So then things get very, very disgusting because when I first started to play the visual novel, like I said, I'm not into this sort of character, the science fiction lolly type of character. I like more like sexier, like mature, like Yo, right? When I saw Yo, and I didn't know about this visual novel, like exactly how it played, I thought, well, maybe there is a route when you get to romance Yo and she becomes like your girlfriend because Yo is pretty hot. But after the modifications, not only has she been turned into a melanoma monster of sorts, she was also permanently damaged in the brain. She's like not mentally fit. And yet Fuminori doesn't care. This guy Fuminori has gone his mind has broken completely. He can no longer be considered exactly human in my opinion. And so he decides to have a threesome, science fiction threesome with Yo and Saya. They are getting it on. But they're also thinking about the future. Thinking, in order to keep on existing in this world, they decide to go to an abandoned place that I think Saya procured the information how to get to an abandoned place near a park. And they start to plan like, oh, we can go to that abandoned place, and if we need food, we can procure that from the nearby area. It's a very sick, twisted thing, right? They are basically going to live kind of like science fiction, a cannibal science fiction, cannibals in science fiction. In the meantime, Koji is trapped in the well. He looks so miserable. The image of him falling into the well is horrifying. He's like bloodied and like he looks like he's on the verge of a breakdown because he's abandoned. He's probably not going to be around for long. And in the meantime, Fuminori is doing the thing with Yo and Saya, and they descend into madness more and more. But to Koji's great benefit, Ryoko, the doctor, has been investigating Fuminori. It turns out that she was the disciple of the doctor that operated on Fuminori, so she has been very suspicious about the activities of the good doctor. She goes to the cabin and finds Koji at the bottom of the well. She goes down into the well because she knows that there is probably a secret passageway. And that's the first thing that I considered like, Koji, if you're down in the well and you have nothing else to do, wouldn't it be a great idea to like to fumble around with the walls to see even if you cannot climb them, perhaps start pulling the bricks to create like steps or do something like the stones, so anything, right? But yeah, Koji is not very bright. But Ryoko manages to find the secret, the trigger to open a secret passageway, and they go through it. Now, a moment, please, because let me recommend another song to you to listen in the background at low volume because we're moving to the next stage. I recommend that you listen to. I'll put it. Oh crap! I'll put it in the chat. This is Song of Saya 2, the perfect ambience for this part. Song of Saya 2. So yes, the doctor and Koji begin walking through the passageway. And it turns out that this passageway leads into the secret laboratory of the doctor. Ryoko takes some very interesting precautions because this laboratory, the walls have been covered with demonic sigils. What you would expect to find in the lesser or greater key of Solomon, right? In the grimoires. And she starts to spray paint over them. I don't think this is the best course of action. She does that so that neither she nor Koji would look at the sigils and trigger some sort of effect, right? But that is not the proper way. If you don't want to look at them, it's much better to just go through the room not looking at the sigils because chemicals, spray paint chemicals, could have some effects with the sigils. They could react in a way to the point that now you have created some sort of link or connection between you and the creature, and the entity. So I do not approve of Ryoko's emergency actions. Mm-mm. Very risky, in my opinion. And they go through the laboratory and they find the mummified corpse of the doctor. He decided to unalive himself for whatever reason. And Ryoko starts to look through the research of the doctor, his journals, his diary. And it turns out that this doctor decided to mix science with the occult, but in a very twisted way, to the point that he actually managed to summon into our world Saya. And that's where I think that the author took inspiration from the children of Shub Nigura, because Saya seems to be kind of like an organic, almost not exactly, but almost like a fungi type of creature. Fungi, parasitic plant sort of organism. And her mother, she only mentions that she has a mother, and her mother sends her children, her daughters, everywhere. And I kept thinking, missed opportunity. Do you remember that movie Species with the sexy Rebecca Ramsey Stamos? She looks so hot, right? And that's the thing about Species. You as a man feel very conflicted because you feel attraction towards the actress, but you know that that actress is like an evil alien creature. I didn't feel that same conflict because Saya looks like a very young individual, right? So for me, I thought wasted opportunity because only those that are into the science fiction lolly thing, they are the only ones who are going to be feeling that conflict of that. Oh, they feel the attraction towards Saya, but at the same time, they feel like rejection because they want to reject her because she seems to be some sort of monster, right? But for me, like, why didn't they use Yo instead? Or I mean, someone with their looks for Saya instead, and they would have felt the conflict even more. Like oh, she looks so sexy, but she's some sort of monster. kind of like female vampires, right? Also, the Dr. Ryoko realizes that this doctor, the guy, got very close to Saya, not to the point of being as close as Fuminori to Saya is, but he considered he went nuts. He considered Saya to be his daughter, and he wanted the best for his daughter because Saya, despite being very alien, some could consider even malign and very intelligent. She is still very young as that sort of entity or species could be considered, right? So it was the doctor's wish to have someone to understand Saya, someone that could look at Saya not with disgust, but perhaps with affection. So when he got called about this guy that was about to die, that was involved in a highway accident, he thought, bingo. He thought I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to modify him, and then he's going to accept Saya. What a selfish action, right? Using someone because he perhaps he thought he was being selfless by giving Saya someone to interact with. But no, you cannot take someone and modify that person's life just so that person adjusts himself or herself for the likes of someone else. But now, after piecing things together, realizing that Yo and Omi are not answering their phones, and even talking to Fuminori on the phone, Koji realizes that Fuminori needs to get unalived along with Saya because they are a danger to humanity. Because Ryoko found out in the journals of the scientist that Saya wants to bear fruit, reproduce after enough white gift, white seed has been acquired. Saya is going to give birth to many, many other creatures like her. There is actually a bad ending. There are a few bad, what you could consider like bad endings, or like the canon one is still not a good ending, but the non-canon endings, in one of them, Saya actually starts to produce new creatures. Fuminori, because like I said, he has this twisted perception because of the operation done on him. He can look at Saya, he looks at Saya as if she's throwing flower petals and plant leaves into the air. Like, oh, how beautiful! What a beautiful spectacle of Saya throwing these things into the air, right? Rose petals and leaves are like, kind of like you imagine it to be like that, like these green leaves floating into the air. But I bet that if a normal person, a person that is sane, rather a healthy person, sane person, were to look at Saya while she's doing that, you would see like a mass of tentacles and blackness and miasma, melanoma, who knows, and spores, like polluting the world. And so the doctor and Koji decided to go to Fuminori's hideout. After investigating and finding out the place, going to Fuminori's hideout and taking care of them, unaliving them. The doctor has a plan. She's going to lay low in the shadows. She has an idea on how to deal with Saya and Fuminori, while Koji is going to be like the distraction. Koji makes it to the hideout and he encounters poor Yo. Yo tries to communicate with Koji even before that through the cell phone, and her voice flows out monstrously with a droning sound, with a guttural and gurgling sound, like horrified. Koji arms himself with a metal pipe that he finds in the abandoned building and destroys Yo, poor Yo. eliminates her completely. It seems that Joy is not as strong as Saya. She doesn't have the regenerative regeneration that Saya has, the regenerative properties. So she's not able to heal from the damage done to her by Koji. She passes away, and Koji continues his search for Fuminori. By now, Fuminori has already purchased an axe. This is not the axe, this is a knife that he used to unalive the neighbor. But he has acquired an axe, and remember, because he looks at the world in a very distorted way, even the weapons, they look like this, like monstrous objects. So Fuminori is waiting for Koji with his axe. He's going to attack. Koji and Fuminori start to exchange attacks, blows, swings. And here Koji has one of the few moments in the game where he looks really cool because Fuminori is getting tired and he's not very good at fighting. And Koji tells Fuminori like, "Hey Fuminori, you're not very good at fighting, are you?" Because Koji apparently has been in some scraps, but Fuminori he's like swinging clumsily, not having great economy of movement, getting tired. His physical condition is quite obviously very bad. But here comes Saya to Fuminori's rescue. Now Fuminori has this monstrous spawn of Shub Niggurath attacking him. But then the doctor comes in to the rescue. The doctor pulls out a bottle of liquid nitrogen and tosses it on Saya. And Saya begins to freeze. But as the doctor pulls out the shotgun to destroy Saya, and Koji has made his escape, Fuminori drives his axe into the doctor. The doctor has been fatally wounded by Fuminori's axe, and before dying, the doctor shoots her shotgun at Saya, and the melanoma monster that was Saya has shattered to pieces. Now, let me recommend another song for this next part story. I would love to include this in the live stream, but like I said, copyright strike. Let me give you the link. This is one of the most touching songs in the entire visual novel. I think it's called Slipper, Glass of Slipper, or Slipper made out of glass, or glass shoe, or something. I'm going to put it in the chat room, in the chat window, so that you can enjoy it. Here it is. Play it at low volume in loop. Let me maximize myself. Minimize myself. Okay. Fuminori, when he sees Saya exploding, because remember, through his eyes, he's looking at the love of his life in humanoid shape, destroyed to pieces, shattered. He loses all hope of to keep on living. So he takes his axe and he unalives himself using his own axe. He drives the axe into his skull. He falls dead. But here is one of the most horrifying and touching moments of the game. Saya was still not dead. And the tentacled monster begins making its way towards Fuminori's corpse. And Koji, with a resurgence of affection towards his who was once his best friend. Fuminori was his best friend. So he takes this metal pipe and charges at Saya and tells her, "You monster, get the fuck away from him! Get the fuck away from him!" And starts to use the metal pipe against what remains of Saya, but Saya continues to move. And when the tentacled monster reaches Fuminori. She reaches out with a feeble, trembling tentacle and strokes Fuminori's cheek, and then she passes away. The only survivor is Koji. Everybody else is dead. And from then on, Koji has these nightmares every single night of the things that he has witnessed and what could happen to the world if one of these creatures were to make its way into our dimension. He keeps a gun with a single bullet if things are become too hard for him. Look, this is an image when if Saya of the bad ending, if Saya uh, gives birth, this is how Fuminori would see it, like a leaves of light. Oh, how beautiful and natural. But no, you know that in reality they are like disgusting fleshy spores coming out of her body. And that's the end of the song of Saya, Saya no Uta. Before we proceed with the my thoughts on things, what did you think about, for those of you that are watching, what did you think about this visual novel? Any thoughts? I'm going to wait a few minutes in case there are comments. Mm, and if not, I'll give you my conclusions because there are some very important lessons to be obtained from this. Josh, if you're still here, do you have any thoughts on this visual novel and on what I have communicated? Well, I'll continue with my thoughts. In case someone writes something, then I will address that. But okay, let's see. Definitely dark. Great comparison with species. Yes, it's like the species, but lolly version, right? I would have loved it if they changed Saya for like a more sexier waifu. But here you have this very young Saya. Like for me, it's not a turn on. I'm sure there's like an audience for this, right? But the story is so good. The story is just so good. So they would have. I would have liked it if they used your typical waifu, so that the average individual would feel that conflict of, oh, she's Saya is so sexy, but she's a monster. But like I said, because she looks like this, for me, like couldn't feel the enough. But yeah, the dark bloodline. Here are the revelations that I obtained from this visual novel. It is very easy, right, to look at Fuminori and consider him the monster as well as Saya. But that makes you question, like, from a species perspective, as humans, we would feel horrified. Like they're like a couple of psychos. They are like the psycho couples that you would see in documentaries about the criminals and whatnot that perhaps go into some sort of shady shack in the middle of nowhere and they kidnap people. Like this guy, what was the name? Sweeney? Not Sweeney Todd. Although you could consider it Sweeney Todd, there is that legend of Sweeney Todd in England that he had this couple of individuals, right? That a barber that would capture people and they would eat the people and horrible. There is this cave also in I think in Scotland of this group of like a family of cannibals that they lived in the cave. They capture people and they eat them and they continue to exist. So horrifying, right? But when it comes to us humans, what would animals think of us? Like it's very easy to say like, oh, the cows are very stupid, and oh, they don't feel like they don't have like feelings, but we we eat animals. Now, like disclosure, you can eat whatever you like, right? I'm I would say part-time vegan because I still eat cheese. I would be more considered like full-time vegetarian, but part-time vegan in that I avoid anything that is not plant, but um, vegetarian because I eat cheese when I eat pizza, organic cheese. I only do it for the benefits. I don't do it like I said. This is not about virtue signaling. Like, oh, shame on you. The poor animals do it for the animals. Like I do it because I have verified on my own body. I have been. I have not eaten meat for 16 years. About 16 years. There were all sorts of crazy rumors that when you stop eating meat, your science fiction YouTube. This is all science fiction and fantasy. When you stop eating meat, your brain shrinks and you become very weak and tired and you start to get sick. I'm a martial artist. I cannot afford to be weak. And I've never felt more energetic and not felt a health even more. I think this is the healthiest moment in my life ever since I decided to abandon meat. But that's just me. Like I said, just giving you my perspective. So in the case of that diet, I just do it for mainly for the benefits. So it's not about survival. Humans could abandon eating meat whenever they want, but the pleasure, right? The pleasure of eating the flesh. So are people really, from a moral standpoint, qualified to criticize Fuminori and Saya, right? You could also say that Fuminori is pretty much a science fiction cannibal. But like if you're going to be like, oh, how horrible they eat this and that animal. My best friend has been vegan for almost 30 years and he is the healthiest person I know. I know. Because that's when you as long as you keep like a balanced diet, right? If you eat like fruits and vegetables and seeds and well, not all fruits, not all vegetables, not all grains, but there are many, right? For example, in my case, I have verified that many fruits, delicious fruits like apples, papaya, mm, grapes, peaches, the like many delicious vegetables like basil leaf, rosemary, like carrots, like there are so many delicious things that are good for your body. And of course, I still eat bread made out of corn flour or wheat, perfectly doable. And ever since I abandoned eating meat, I have never had cravings for meat. So it's all a fucking it's an addiction. You become addicted. So the thing with Saya and Fuminori is that they, in their own twisted ways, they were trying to survive. But this is still our world, right? I would have fought Saya to the very end. I would have fought against her because she was going to, according to one of the bad endings of the game, she pretty much fills the world with her kin, with her monsters, with her spawn, the things that are coming out of her back. But like I said, they are monstrous that do not get fooled by the by the beautiful leafy natural image. They are monstrous. More like let's go back to that image to obtain that perspective. Like the bottom half of Saya, right? That's how they look like that. And so that's just putting things into perspective. But here there are two major problems that also affect us in real life. The entire thing with Song of Saya, the entire problem, perhaps could have been solved if Fuminori trusted his friends. Okay, so you wake up from the surgery, everything looks like shit. People in general tell you that you have been damaged by the operation, by the procedure. You could wait for things to calm down a bit and then tell your friends, hey, Joe, Omi, um, Hoji, I don't want to scare you guys, but I have no one else to turn to. But ever since after the operation, you look like this and that, and I look at the world like this and that. And the friends, I bet you that they would have been very concerned about the character. They would have understood why he looks at them like that. Perhaps with the help of Dr. Ryoko, because she was obviously quite knowledgeable about things. They would have tried to do something to help Fuminori. But Fuminori, instead of using critical thinking, that everything started to go wrong after the operation, instead of doing that, he took refuge in Saya. That's pretty crazy, don't you think? Imagine you wake up from the operation, the world is distorted, it's like a nightmare world, and the only thing that you consider normal is this girl. There's something fucked up, like, and you know that these friends of yours that can only be seen as monsters, they know about you. They know about things that only you have experienced with them. It's obvious that they are your friends. You share those memories, those moments that you lived together, and the care that they have for you. That are you doing okay? Do you need this or that? It is obvious that these are not monsters. Not that obvious, but right? Because Fuminori took the route that, oh, these are actually monsters messing with my mind. They are tricking me. But at the very least, wouldn't it hurt if things are so horrifying? Wouldn't it hurt a bit to tell the creatures, hey, you know what? After the operation, I'm seeing you very distorted. I don't know what is wrong with me. That is pretty wild. What a crazy mind screw. Indeed, indeed. Like critical. That's why I always tell people, critical thinking, logic, reasoning. Like, but that's the sad thing. In real life, in real life, so many people do not use critical thinking. They do not use logic and reasoning. When the science fiction health madness occurred a few years back, the fucking science fiction governments, the pharma, they started recommending something, enforcing something rather, because if you did not obey, you would end up losing your job. Friends and family would ostracize you. You wouldn't be able to enter stores because you didn't take a certain thing. If only monsters are left, you would be desperate to communicate, possibly. Who knows, though? That is true. That's the thing that broke Fuminori, and we're going to get into that in a few moments. Because he was convinced that everything was monstrous, so Saya became like a very unhealthy anchor. She was like a siren. Like, hey, everything looks monstrous, but look at me. Look, I'm a cute little girl. Look, la 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 la. And Fuminori took the bait. He took the bait. But like I said, how many people have been taking the bait every single fucking time? Those few of us that were telling everybody, even myself. That's why I hate the most popular YouTubers, science fiction. I hate them so much. You know why? Because this madness happened and they didn't warn anyone. And it's obvious that the majority of them did not take this. They did not take this. They could have warned everybody. Not only did they not take this because they knew it was something, right? Didn't warn their subscribers. They don't care about their subscribers. They only care about the money, the ad revenue. They were perfectly fine with people getting science fiction unalived and getting science fiction not feeling too well, as long as they kept watching their content. So now they are friends of everybody because they didn't make other people feel uncomfortable. Well, those of us that are heroic, we were like, don't do it. We had to risk it all. We were all affected. Though those of us that were warning everybody, we were uh, called many things. We were ostracized. We lost many opportunities concerning business because we were warning people not to do something very bad, right? Science fiction YouTube. This is not true YouTube. So how many times do people fall into that delusion? Yeah, that was crazy. So thankful for the outliers, even in the medical field, that would post in science fiction YouTube. They would post and set out the truth. Indeed, exactly, exactly. Those many people in that field, they ended up they had to go independent. But most of the others, because they had so much profit for recommending and even placing that, they would keep on doing it. And like I said, this is just a small example. Take a look at how people are, they keep getting tricked, politically speaking. Like the certain Charlie, let's call it the recent Charlie situation. I'm going to put a link, the science fiction YouTube. I'm just placing a link to a community post. Let me maximize myself. Just doing placing a little innocent, very innocent link. La la la. Going to the science fiction link. Mm-mm-mm. Yes. Okay. There you will find a pinned comment showing a video concerning the Charlie guy, the science fiction Kirk guy. We're talking science fiction, you do. Let me place it here. That community post is going to take you to a community post. Yeah, the community post takes you to a video, has a link to a video. I want you to analyze that video. When someone in science fiction you do receives a shot, science fiction sniper shot. We're talking about video games to the neck. You do not fall to the left. You fall on the opposite direction. Your fucking shirt doesn't puff like it has some sort of air compressor device puff in the direction of your neck, and then a red liquid, a red science fiction liquid starts to pour out. And even if you put that video in slow motion, put it in slow motion, there is not a single science fiction bullet in sight. And this fucking piece of shit, this fucking disgusting Charlie piece of shit, science fiction, he has tricked so many people. Now, right now, he's enjoying his margarita probably with the Jeffrey guy that has the PDF files, and people go nuts. I have unsubscribed from so many channels because of how idiotic they are at spreading the madness. That piece of shit, blonde sow in science fiction, from the how do you call it? The channel Titan Media, the Vara Dark. This other piece of shit, the side scrollers, this the hypnotic guy, the so many channels with these imbeciles without even taking a look at the video, analyzing it frame by frame. They are spreading this division between people. Fucking monsters. That's the problem. That's the problem. Those people are like Fuminori. They look at a monstrous world and decide that is the world instead of finding out the truth. The first thing that they look like, just like Fuminori saw the world, and it was a world of monstrous viscera and tumors and veins and tentacles. And instead of thinking the senses could deceive you, there could be something else. These fucking idiots, they create this madness. So yes, like when they are too fast to judge Fuminori, they are exactly like him. They are exactly like him. How many people during the science fiction health madness from a few years were asking for those of us that did not take the fucking thing to be placed in consent science fiction, tration science fiction camps? So yeah, Song of Saya, like so many people think like, oh, Fuminori is he failed miserably. He's a monster. He became crazy, right? But they are exactly like him. They're, so before judging Fuminori, they should judge themselves and then judge Fuminori. Like in my case, I am not the wisest of individuals, but I always use critical thinking, logic, reasoning. And then I tell you, yeah, Fuminori screwed up, but at the very least, I tried to look through the illusion, right? To pierce through the veil. In the case of Fuminori, doing that to his friends. But how many people have rejected their friends and loved ones due to various political manipulations? They give priority to science fiction, political parties, and religions, and doctrines, and idols. They start to worship the science fiction Jesus and the science fiction whatever Allah, whatever science fiction, science fiction. That's not true. YouTube. No, we love those idols. We love them. We love them. This is science fiction. I can tell you right now, no matter who it is, I am willing to science fiction YouTube. We're talking about video games. I am willing to destroy every single god, demon, devil. I will face those entities and destroy them if they attempt something against me or humanity or my family. In science fiction YouTube, we're talking about a video game. This is not true. No matter the fucking idol, I will destroy that idol. Like in science fiction, we're talking about video games, right? If they even attempt something against me or my loved ones in science fiction. So many people give priority to that madness. In Russia, the Middle Ages, early Renaissance, they started to tell people, the fucking science fiction church, hey, if your house is on fire, take this statuette of the saint who knows what, and it will put out the fire. People's homes were on fire. They used the magic religious icon, the saint. Didn't work. They got angry, took the statuettes, broke them to pieces. And you know what the fucking science fiction church did? They unalived them for destroying a statuette that they purchased from the church. Imagine how fucking crazy is that? You go and purchase this statuette that is supposedly going to protect you. Didn't work. You destroy the statuette, and now the ones who sold you the statuette come to your house and unalive you for destroying pottery that you purchased. The trickery continues. Song of Saya is a lesson. Song of Saya is a lesson telling you, don't be like Fuminori. Don't be like Fuminori. Use your critical thinking, logic, reasoning. Another example, the wells in the Middle Ages. The water was contaminated, and then came the science fiction church. Look, with this crucifix of our Lord Jesus, we will purify the water. Whoa! Throw the crucifix into the water. The water is drinkable. Oh, it's the power of Jesus. No, it's the power of the silver. Because the crucifix was made out of silver, which in science fiction YouTube has antibiotic properties. In science fiction YouTube. So Song of Saya, like I said, just look at this. It reveals so many things about the human condition. This is not a visual novel to be like regarded as just like, oh, it's some sort of gore, unhealthy gore pleasure. It is an examination, an artistic examination of the human condition. Pominori being the prime example of believing what he sees, even though it goes against all logic and reasoning, and even causing the demise of his friends because he decided to trust Saya. Saya could be considered the embodiment of the powers that be, of the science fiction powers that be. Why the fuck are you lamenting the fake unaliving of fucking political actors? They don't care about you. They don't care about, like, remember when the science fiction Hulk, science fiction Hogan supposedly got unalive? Could be, could not be. And so many, oh no, he died. And someone said, are you sure he died? Or maybe he got science fiction sacrificed because he was supporting the agenda. He was part of it. And they're like, how dare you? How dare you speak right now? You go into one of those right wing places and you tell them that Charlie did not die. In science fiction, you are in danger of getting unalived yourself by those fucking hillbillies and rednecks. So yeah, Song of Saya. It is a very enlightening visual novel despite its controversial aspects. Reveals so many things, so many truths about our world. Always put things to the test. Use logic and reasoning and critical thinking. Otherwise, you cannot judge Fuminori. You cannot judge Fuminori because you haven't been using your critical thinking, your logic, and your reasoning. I guess that's pretty much about it. Josh or anyone else that is watching, do you have any other thoughts to explore concerning the Song of Saya? I'm going to wait a couple of minutes if you have any further thoughts on this. It's like, well, according to history, Napoleon supposedly said, religion is so great, it keeps the poor people from unaliving the rich ones. Or rather say the corrupt ones, right? The indoctrination is pretty bad. Let's see, while I wait, let me give you some further thoughts. Hmm, let's see, what else? What else am I missing of the exploration of the Song of Saya? Well, just that that is apart from these points, but it's a bit fascinating how Saya, despite being a spawn of Shub Nigura, she still learned how to love a human. That last moment when the tentacle monster was approaching Fuminori, she just wanted to caress his cheek before passing away. Her last message of affection towards Fuminori. I think that's about it. And thank you, Josh, for watching this live stream. And thank you to everyone else. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the super thanks button, like, subscribe, take a look at the information in the description and in the pinned comment. And once this video is finished, the processing, I think it requires a day or two. Definitely take a look at the link that I placed in the chat. Search for the Charlie situation, for the science fiction Kirk situation. Search air compressor blood squib for the exact device that it was employed. In fact, let me uh, add that to the community post that I showed to you. Let me go to it, and I'm going to add edit. I'm going to write edit. It's clear. The fucking scumbag used an air compressor blood squib. Science fiction YouTube. There we go. All right. So yes, thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoyed this little talk. Um, Even though, like I said, it's full of spoilers, I think it's still worth it to play the visual novel. But depending on the place where you live, right? If you live in the UK, do not play this visual novel, probably, unless you want the fucking drones go and pay you a little visit in science fiction. So thank you, yes, and this has been your host Abraham L. Jaguar, and remember, level up in game and level up in life. This is the last live stream for tonight, but I always do live streams every single day. So once again, thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening, day, wherever you are. See you later.